with Paul Majors, Diana Pierce, Jeff Passold, sports, and meteorologist Paul Douglas.
The people in this household should have been celebrating Hmong New Year tonight, but instead, they're mourning the loss of a son and 2 family friends in a tragic fire. Good evening. Paul is off tonight. 9 people managed to safely escape the flames, and tonight they're trying to come to terms with what happened. Sadly, fire officials believe a smoldering cigarette ignited the fatal fire. Tonight's other top stories: avoiding the death trap this holiday season. Another icy day for holiday travel in the Midwest. But next in the extra, Korean children adopted by Minnesota families struggling to fit in. But we begin with a tragic twist to the holidays for a local Hmong family. Fire broke out early this morning at the Yang home at 1784 Phalen Place in Maplewood. 12 people were inside at the time, gathered to celebrate Thanksgiving on the Hmong New Year. Of the 12, 3 did not survive. And as KARE 11's Melissa Young reports, for the family, there's little else to do but mourn their losses.
It's New Year's, a time of celebration for the Hmong community. The Yang family planned to be here first thing this morning. Instead, they're staying with relatives tonight, trying to accept and understand their loss.
When you come out of the living room and the kitchen, and by then it was too late.
A smoke alarm alerted Lee Yang to the fire. Her screams woke up other family members. 9 people got out safely, but 3 others were asleep in the basement, including their oldest son, Pao. The family tried to reach him, but the fire pushed them back.
They just asking me my neighbor's house or someone was staying in the cold, and all we did was call Pao's name and see if he could hear us, and we knew it was too late. We couldn't see him.
17-year-old Pao Yang was a senior at North St. Paul. He planned to go to college next year. Instead, his mother sings a traditional song of mourning. He was a good son. He'll be missed. The fire's toll was severe. The Yang family lost everything: their own piece of the American dream, their clothes, their belongings, and a son.
Clothes for the kids and toys.
Friends of the family are trying to help tonight. The clothes the family wears all were borrowed from neighbors, even 8-month-old Dylan's bottle. They hope to rebuild, but they say the effort will never be complete.
All the money in the world, the new house, the new everything, they're going to bring back my brother.
Her son has been gone, and she loves him so much, and it's very hard for the family. And, she really do appreciate all those people, the support.
Now, the Red Cross has offered some assistance, and a fund has been set up to help the family rebuild. Donations can be sent to the Yang Memorial Fund at the Western Bank, Post Office Box 64689, St. Paul, and the zip code is 55164. The names of the other 2 victims, both teenage friends of Pao Yang, have not yet been released. Diana?
Thank you, Melissa. Residents of one South Minneapolis neighborhood took a stand against violence tonight with gunfire as a backdrop. Several dozen people are spending the night outside. They're camping out to protest rising violence in their neighborhood. Their concerns proved accurate even as they protested when gunshots rang out during this interview.
Well, a lot of folks on the block are not comfortable coming outside. That was a gunshot.
The protesters are made up of several different community action groups. They hope their visibility can help unite a neighborhood divided by drugs and crime. Retailers across the country are dreaming of a green Christmas tonight after a strong start to the holiday shopping season. Malls across the country and here in the Twin Cities were jammed with shoppers. Holiday shopping can account for up to 45% of a retailer's annual sales. And surveys show 75% of all shoppers plan to spend more money this year. But as KARE 11's Dave Wilderness reports, what's good for retailers may not be the best for consumers, especially when the holiday bills come due in January.
Forget about frugality. Holiday shoppers are projected to spend more this year than last, 10% more. All those pledges to scale back have as much follow-through as most New Year's resolutions.
Yeah, we got the dinosaurs, we got the pirate ship, got the new shoes for me, and lots of goodies for the kids.
By the time all those goodies are added up and the presents are unwrapped, this year the average American is expected to spend $745. Midwesterners are tapped as the most generous gift givers, dropping over $800. While 3 out of 4 people say that money spent will be cash, not credit, the fact is that of all the debt accumulated throughout the year, 25% of it, a full fourth, is piled up between now and Christmas.
They get a little nuts.
Credit counselor Wayne Wensley says the most important tip to avoid seasonal debt is to make a list and stick to it.
I'm going to buy a shirt for Uncle Harry, and I'm going to spend $30. And you go to the shirt department, you pick up that $30 shirt, and then you get out of there. Because if you hang around the shirt department, you're going to buy a tie, maybe you're going to buy a pair of socks, maybe you're going to buy a jacket or a sweater. The more you hang around, the more susceptible you're going to be to spending on things that aren't on your list.
Retailers make it easy to stay and spend, but consider this. The merchant's biggest season is now. Bankruptcy attorneys do the most business January through April.
Don't use the credit cards. Do not use them. Use them only in an emergency, and that'll keep you out of my office.
As they say, the line begins here. Dave Wildermuth, KARE 11 News, Bloomington.
Advisors at the nonprofit Credit Consumer Counseling Service say they'll see 3,000 families before year's end. The average debt they carry is more than $19,000, most of it from credit cards. While some people flocked to local malls, others made a reluctant trip to the impound lots. More than 100 cars were towed in St. Paul overnight. They were in violation of the city's snow emergency. The fine, a hefty $64. St. Paul has now canceled its snow emergency. Parking is now permitted on residential streets. To avoid a tow in Minneapolis, don't park on the even side of residential streets tomorrow. In Bloomington, no parking is allowed on any street until it's plowed curb to curb. Holiday travel is proving treacherous through much of the nation's midsection. At least 14 deaths are being attributed to bad weather, and that tops our world tonight. Frigid temperatures and ice brought the Dallas-Fort Worth airport to a standstill. At one point today, American Airlines grounded all Dallas departures. As much as 6 inches of ice is on the ground in some areas of Texas. In Santa Monica, California, 2 people were killed and 6 others injured when a small plane crashed into an apartment building. There's no word on what caused the accident. By spring, children may be able to get vaccinated against chickenpox. The government is in the final stages of approving the vaccine. 4 million people a year get the virus. About 9,000 suffer complications. Still, some doctors say they're wary of injecting a live virus into children to prevent a fairly mild disease. And in New York, the first family is the main attraction in Macy's holiday windows. The window depicts a Clinton holiday with Hillary Clinton serving up a tray of treats, cookies that look like the president. The calendar says November, but it will feel more like the dead of winter this weekend. Paul Douglas will tell us if more snow is on the way. Later in the newscast, before we go, downtown Minneapolis is alive with a holiday spirit. In sports, the Timberwolves go up against an NBA foe with a perfect record. But next in the extras, torn between 2 cultures, adopted Korean children and their struggle to fit in here in Minnesota.
It's that time of year again, and we've all been there, buying for the person who's impossible to buy for. They hate everything.
I hope you saved the receipt.
Until now. Who thought of that? What is this? Where did you find that? You won't believe what KARE 11 News found when we went in search of the perfect present. Sunday at 10 on KARE 11 News.
There's that word again.
BOGO. What's a BOGO?
Buy one, get one half off. That's a BOGO.
What?
One of Santa's reindeer? I don't think so.
Buy any brand name sweater or fleece top at our already low prices and get a second sweater or fleece top 1/2 off. Friday through Sunday only.
Bo ho ho.
BOGO.
Announcing the grand opening of Mobile Phone Center, your cellular phone headquarters in Minnetonka, and terrific grand opening specials, like this Motorola Microflip Megaphone with digital messaging for just $69, or this Nokia handheld with digital messaging for just $69.
Mobile Phone Center, it's for you.
Mobile phone center services provided by U.S. West Cellular.
We at Oldsmobile owe you an apology. Our Bravada beat the Ford Explorer in a test of acceleration and traction. But the test wasn't quite fair. You see, to keep it close, we made the Bravada haul an 800-pound boat. It gets worse. Now the prices aren't close either. The Bravada Special Edition's over $4,000 less than the Ford Explorer Limited. Can you ever forgive us? It's your choice.
The world of Makita design. Innovative. Always a leader. So how do you make the best even better? Throw away the key. Makita. It's all the power you need. For a limited time, receive a free extra battery with your Makita purchase.
It's a familiar scene that marks a new beginning. Young Korean children arriving in the Twin Cities, their new adoptive parents eager to embrace them. In tonight's Extra, a look at what happens when those babies grow up. Since the 60s, Minnesota families have adopted 11,000 Korean children, the second highest number in the U.S. For many, what they face growing up will be traumatic. A number of adult adoptees are still struggling to fit into Minnesota's predominantly white society. And as KARE 11's Melissa Young and photographer Jeff Crocker report, the problem isn't just a feeling of abandonment, it's that they are torn between two cultures.
I remember being left by my mother in this kind of office building.
Because the kids that are illegitimate in Korea now, even now in the 1990s, they're shunned. They'll never get out of poverty.
It seems the perfect match. Children in need of homes, parents longing for children. Each new family begins here. In the end, many of Minnesota's 11,000 children adopted from Korea grow up with racism, pain, and denial.
Go. 1, 2, 3, 4.
They're rehearsing a scene from Masked Dance, a play exploring Korean adoption.
In some ways, the experiences that they've had, some of them have had traumas over it. There's a lot of questions of cultural identity.
Jody Paquin is understudy for the role of the youngest adopted child, a role she knows firsthand.
She was a great part of our family and fantastic young lady at this point in time. There were obviously some problems beneath the surface that we were not aware of that were really bothering Jody, and that's the unfortunate part of it.
And it's not their fault. It was probably more or less isolated myself from them. I didn't want them to know how much it was hurting me.
The pain started in Mankato. Growing up one of the only Asian kids in a white town, she faced racial taunts from children and adults.
The usual, chink, flat face, and, I used to dream about how, and a lot of kids go through this, where they dream that they'd be able to have plastic surgery to make their features more Caucasian. Can you maybe wash the chicken off and start cutting it in little cubes?
Jody is 26 now. She and Tim Markworth are newly engaged, but she's still facing down her memories. As a young girl, she rejected anything to do with Korea, including that part of herself.
I would consciously forget that I was Asian until I looked into a mirror. And then I'd be like, oh my God, I'm Asian. And I hated that. I hated having to see that.
Yeah, but you don't cook that much. You could do.
These days, Jody is close to her sister Jill and the rest of her family. But it's taken years of therapy and time away from Minnesota for Jody to feel comfortable with who she is. She says among her friends adopted from Korea, her experience, her pain, is not unique.
If you were looking this way, you would see through, right? And looking this way, it's blind.
Andrew Molly is designing the sets for the play Masked Dance. He, too, knows how difficult it can be to be adopted and different. He came from Korea at age 5 and grew up in Golden Valley. He became the All-American Boy, a hockey-playing teen who seemed to fit in with his friends. but ignored his ethnic past.
Probably when he was a junior or senior in high school, we noticed that he became real quiet and withdrawn. It was hard to communicate with him. And then his first year of college at Lawrence, he ended up confronting racism in a real personal way.
You know, when I was walking down the street, these rednecks in their pickups would be shouting racial epithets at me and throwing stuff at me and my roommate, telling us to, go back to Vietnam.
After a year, Andrew transferred to the Minneapolis College of Art and Design and got involved in building sets for theater. But he says those racist attacks his freshman year brought him out of his state of denial. He was different. He needed to know why.
I guess you have to come to terms. I've come to terms with the fact that you don't necessarily have to completely belong in this place, that I have to work at defining things for myself in terms of how I personally feel comfortable.
Andrew has found focus for his life through his art, but says he still feels torn between two cultures. He visited Korea 2 years ago, but says he didn't fit in there any more than here. To them, he's an American. He spends the summer at Korean camp, helping younger adopted children understand their heritage.
I feel happy but sad about looking at the younger kids that I teach today, because I know that they're going to go through the same things that I have gone through, whether it's positive or painful. They're going to have to go through it eventually.
And tonight's extra, confronting and surviving racism, aimed at adopted Korean children.
For years, parents could do little but sit by and watch while their kids struggled to accept their ethnic identity. But recently, a number of programs have been developed to address the needs of Korean children adopted in Minnesota. Tonight, KARE 11's Melissa Young and photographer Jeff Crocker show us how adopted adults in the local Korean community have reached out to help.
There's one bag in there left. There's a sleeping bag. Was there more stuff, or is that it?
Growing up is never easy. There's always problems with boys, parents, school. But what if you had other issues to deal with on top of all that?
Well, so we gather around in a circle.
For these girls, it's a triple burden. They're teenagers. They're Asian in a mostly white society. And they're adopted.
I'm Jane Johnson, and I was adopted when I was 2. I'm 14 years old.
And I came here when I was 5 years old.
So I went to America and then start speaking English.
This support group, run by Children's Home Society, gives teens a chance to meet and talk with other kids adopted from Korea.
I basically know where I was from 3 months on, but I don't know my birthday, and that's something that really bothers me. But it helps to be in a group to know that other people are dealing with the same questions.
My name is Jody Paquin. I was adopted when I was 5 years old, and I grew up in Mankato, Minnesota.
Jody Paquin volunteers with the group. It's an opportunity she wishes she'd had as a kid. Jody grew up hating the fact she looked different than everyone else, and hating herself in the process.
And that's one of the reasons why I want to be involved with the kids, because I want them to know that this does happen, and that if you do feel like this, don't feel alone. Because that was one of the main problems, is that I felt so alone.
You don't have much passing time.
Let me read this one again.
Emily Swanson used to feel isolated at her old school. She was one of only 4 children of color.
When I started getting older, I realized that I was different from other people. And you get teased a lot more when you're older.
Rendition, old.
Now she and her sisters blend in at Barton School, a mix of white, black, Asian, and Native American students. Their mother says that's helped. All 3 Swanson girls were born in Korea, but they don't dwell on the distinction.
I don't think it matters what race you are. You're not that different at all. Yeah, sometimes I kind of forget that I'm Korean because I'm just like everybody else.
Hi, guys.
Hey, Mom.
The Swansons are like any Minnesota family. Mom and Dad are active in their daughters' lives. But Bob Swanson felt there was a piece of the puzzle missing for his children.
Because we grew up by our family. You know your culture. You know your grandparents came from here. You know, mine came from Norway. And that, you grow up in that environment, and we don't have that gift to give them.
Until they discovered Korean Camp and the Korean Institute.
The night before she was to depart, she sat beside her father.
If only I could prevent the sun from rising.
Every Saturday, Emily and Anna Swanson go to school. to learn the dance, theater, and language of Korea.
Emily's first reaction was walking in the door and seeing kids looking exactly like her and saying, Mommy, they all look like me. And I knew from that point on that this was the best thing to do for them.
It's kind of neat because there's so many other Korean kids there. You don't feel odd at all.
The sponsors say the Korean Institute has provided a valuable link. Learning about Korean language and culture has given the girls a sense of pride in their heritage and themselves. Experts say that's critical in helping Korean adopted children cope with growing up in a predominantly white world.
And for them to be able to look at the differences not in a negative view, but to be able to take and embrace what culture they came from, to be able to look at the strengths of the country that they were born from, and for the family to incorporate that as a family, not just to isolate the young person who was adopted.
The Oaks family found a different way to connect with Korean culture. They traveled there on a tour for families with adopted children.
And it's a real place with real people and real things, and it's real easy to recall now exactly how it is over there.
Their trip included visits to temples and the North Korean border, but they also visited orphanages and the city and hospital where 16-year-old Sarah was born. It was an education for all of them.
It's like if you're unwed and you're going to have a child, then you're sort of cast out from society kind of thing. So I got to learn more about why I was given up and why I'd been adopted and everything, and that helped a lot.
Whether visiting the country, leaning on other kids for support, or learning the culture firsthand, there is a common thread. All these kids are reaching out to understand who they are and how they came to be here.
And they can look at themselves in the mirror and be proud of the fact that they are Korean American and know that there's all kinds of things out there for them to feel good about.
Experts say that sense of self is critical as they grow up and face adult realities. Melissa Young, Channel 11 News.
How to be a bridesmaid. Outfit must be petroleum-based for maximum discomfort. Add big ruffles, big hair, for a big, big look. You are now a bridesmaid.
Introducing Riders jeans and casual wear.